Here's a walk around of today's historic classic car auction, which takes place at Farnborough International Airport. There's lots to see, starting off with this nice 1972 Aston Martin V8 Coupe, a manual car, making it more desirable. They're also featured in Octane recently as a model, not this specific car. It's guided between £140,000 and £167,000, which kind of shows you how much they've gone up in value in the last few years. But also it had £193,000 spent on it in a 3-year period between 2017 and 2020, I think, which is just a simply huge amount of money. That Range Rover L405 you saw is 121,000 miles, and it's just about coming down into under 10 grand bracket, which I think is bonkers for those Range Rovers. They're a lot of car for the money. That Bentley Turbo you just saw was featured in my ACA video recently. It's a very low mileage car. It's sold at ACA and now with the new owner is at Historics. It's also a much higher guide. We'll have to see whether it makes that kind of money. I'm not sure whether it will. There's a bit of grease in the inside and things like that. But it's a lovely thing. You've got a Project E-Type here, which hasn't had a work in a long time. I think in the last 30 years it's been ownership, but it's reported to have a blueprinted engine. This XK120 has been seen at Guy Broads and other places like that. It's a nice thing. But in general, with Historics, there's a lot of nice things. It's kind of hard to what takes your eye the most. Later on, you'll see a nice 80s Bentley Continental, a red one, which is a really lovely thing. It's had £30,000 spent on it since 2018, which probably in the eyes of Bentley isn't that much. There's E-Types. There's a Rolls-Royce Phantom 6, I think. Lots of Ferraris, Mercedes, just about everything you could want. Lots of favourites for me as well. There's also a Morris Minor that's been supercharged with a competition spec engine, and that was previously owned by Derek Hood of JD Classics, and that car apparently had £44,000 spent building it, including a custom fabricated rear axle. There's a lot of money spent on these cars here, and there's potentially people will be losing a lot of money on these cars as well, so it's kind of picking what you want to buy. That has had the money spent, and you're not going to need to spend a lot of money for maybe a little while. We all know that classic cars will need money spent on them. That's just how they are. But you want to kind of buy the thing that's had most of the hard work done, unless you really like buying a project. But at this point in the market, projects aren't necessarily doing so well. People are a bit more cautious with their money. You'd have to be taking it on because you like actually restoring a car and you don't mind losing the money on it. But there's not a lot of people who are like that. What else did I like in the auction? So many things, really, as always. There's just too many things to look at. There's a nice Silver Shadow Coupe, which is kind of pre-Corniche, I suppose, which looks really cheap compared to other Corniches. It was their previous auction. I thought it sold, but maybe not. There's also a rather wacky BMW 5 Series, which is quite a bright blue, but also has a blue and yellow interior. I wasn't quite sold on it. I think it's a particular taste, but I'm glad it exists. And I would always like to look at things like that because unusual cars are better. There's also an older 5 Series which looks to be very original and in very nice condition. I also really like a Boxer Spider. That rear deck just looks fantastic compared to the standard car. Maybe not the spec I'd choose it in terms of colours, but it is a stunning thing. And hopefully it will do well for a modern car at this kind of auction. You just have to wait and see. The auction starts at 9:30, so it's starting any time now, or may have started by the time this is posted. But it will be going on all day. There's a lot of cars to get through, and they can't be rushed either. Sometimes bidders can be slow, sometimes it'll be fast, but the auction will be running until about 5 o'clock. And not many people will sit around for the whole thing, so you have to pick and choose kind of when you're going. Lots to see, lots to bid on. We'll see how Historics do. They'll probably have sales figures coming out a couple of days after because they'll still be negotiating with people the cars that didn't quite make the reserve, or they were way away from reserve, to be honest, and even those cars will get negotiated on, and Historics will be trying to sell them post-auction. There's that Phantom that I mentioned earlier, a lovely thing. Oh yeah, a couple of Project Porsche 911 964s, including that Carrera 4 Coupe there, which is in poor enough state, but as we know, people like to resto mod those and make them look into older 911s, so I expect that what will happen with that, quite sadly. Not often you see RS Escort Cosworths at Historics. They're normally Iconics and people like that, but it's nice to see one. And the thing is, I'm not sure whether there's necessarily bargains in this auction, but that only kind of reveals itself when bidding is underway. You have to be in the game to see what goes cheap and what deals can be made. And sometimes you do get to steal something when the bidders aren't quite there or it doesn't meet reserve, and you can have those negotiations. It being a sunny day may help it, and people may turn up. Bank holiday weekend, they may not. You just never know until the day. But as with most things now, lots of people on the phones and lots of people online. People who have tried to view the auction ahead of time like I did yesterday. And that's when you really see it. Hopefully it's a good sale for Historics. I'll try and do a video with the sales figures post-sale, but that will take a few days at least.